G'day everyone, if you've recently picked up HammoTimee 4 and you're a bit confused about how the Airforce works, then you've come to the right place. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to take you from Cessna 172 to F-35 in no time. It's a little aircraft joke for you plane enthusiasts out there. I'll be using the base version of the game with no mods or DLCs for this and the future beginner's guide videos, and stick around till the end of the video for a bonus tip. Just before we get started though, let me tell you about today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by me and my merch store. I've got a whole range of comfortable and stylish designs available now for you guys to purchase. I curated this myself, taking into consideration the best quality, durability, and sustainability. And I've currently got 4 different styles for you to choose from on a variety of products, from your classic tees to hoodies, mugs, and these sick corduroy caps and more. So if you're wanting to support the channel and get something in return, please head to the link in the description to check out the store. The Airforce in HammoTimee 4 is made up of a variety of different types of aircraft, which are organized into air wings. Air wings perform a variety of missions for you, from combating enemy fighters to bombing frontline troops or even targeting strategic industry, as well as some other stuff. Given that the Air Force is one of the 3 key branches in the game, it's important that you understand these missions and how to effectively utilize them. Firstly though, let's see how to view your Air Force and assign missions. Press F3 or this button in the bottom right to open up the air view map. This is where you will see the different strategic air zones in grey, as well as your airports and the different wings stationed in them and their strength. The different airports are shown by the little black and white plane icons on the map, and then the ones that are white will have a number next to it when you select it, showing what the current capacity is and its max capacity. When you left click on an airport to select it, you will see the airport information panel in the top left. We can see the different air missions along the top row, the different organization buttons here, and then the different lines for the various air wings. Air wings are essentially the divisions of the air, groupings of a maximum of 100 planes of a single type, which operate out of the airports on the map. When you select an airport, you'll see all the planes that are in it by default, but to select one or multiple, you can left click on an air wing and then hold shift and left click the others. You can also press the S hotkey to split your selection, or this button here. At the start of the game, it's generally a good idea to bring your Air Force together to organize them. The easiest way to do this is to select the air overview button in the top right, and then hold shift and just left click on all of these lines to select all of your planes. To move your planes to an airport, all you need to do is select them and then right click on the airport icon. And then when we unpause, we'll see the path that all these wings are taking as shown by the dotted yellow lines, and the progress as shown by the little yellow planes. Naturally, the further the planes have to travel, the longer they'll take to get there, so make sure you move your planes where you want them to be before declaring war if you can. Once your air wings are all together, you can combine them by selecting the airport and then clicking on the merge button here or the G hotkey, which will combine all the air wings together that are the same aircraft type. For example, you can't mix fighters and naval bombers in the same wing. Doing this at the start of the game will prevent you from having a bunch of half-strength wings, which will be less effective. The current airport has a maximum capacity of 600, and we currently have over 700 in it now, meaning that these planes will suffer a combat penalty if they're not under the limit. We can fix this by building new airports in the state, which will increase the cap by 200 at a time up to a maximum of 2,000, or we can move some of these air wings to an airport nearby. I'll move 2 wings down to the airport in Somaliland. If we unpause, they will make their way there. And now both of our airports are under the cap. You'll notice here that some of these air wings are under strength. Like any other equipment, you'll need to build aircraft to keep your wings supplied. The good news is though, once built, your planes will automatically reinforce your air wings provided that there's space. Once your air wings are full, you can simply split them into 2 with the split button, and the new wings will continue to reinforce. You can also deploy any aircraft which are in stockpile through this Add New Air Wing button, so long as you have the manpower for it. Let's talk about the different air missions and aircraft types. In the menu at the top of the screen, you can see from left to right the various missions that an air wing can undertake. First is the training mission, air superiority, close air support, or CAS, interception, strategic bombing, naval bombing, kamikaze strike, port strike, air supply, and naval patrol. The most important missions for you to know about are air superiority and close air support, but I'll explain all the other missions for you anyway. Just as long as you like the video and subscribe to the channel to see more, and let me know in the comments what other stuff you want to see so I can make sure I do a video on it. Air superiority is carried out by your fighters to shoot down any and all enemy planes. It's also the main contributor to air supremacy in an air region, which provides a combat bonus to your frontline troops. This is the main fighter mission that you'll use, but if the enemy has a significantly larger air force, you may want to put your fighters on the interception mission, which only targets enemy bombers, not their fighters. Interception doesn't provide air supremacy though, so you do miss out on that bonus, usually in return for limiting the damage from enemy CAS. Speaking of CAS, close air support is the next mission, which is carried out by your close air support and tactical bombers. This mission specifically targets enemy land units while in combat, and having good air support can make or break your playthrough. These are vulnerable to enemy fighters though, so make sure you have your own to protect them, and if the enemy has AA in their divisions, you are going to take some losses. Strategic bombing is carried out by your tactical bombers and strategic bombers, and specifically targets enemy buildings. If you click on the target icon next to the air mission, you can select if there are specific buildings that you want to target. This can wear down your enemy over time, as well as distract their air force, taking them away from the front line. The naval strike mission is carried out by your naval bombers, TAC bombers, or close air support, and it has to be activated in sea zones. Your planes will target enemy ships with torpedoes, starting with the largest first. The enemy screening ships and AA will try to protect them though, so again, in big battles you may incur some losses. Those same plane types can also perform the port strike mission, which is great to use if the enemy fleet's hiding away in a port and they're not coming out to play. The naval patrol mission does what it says on the tin. It'll spot enemy fleets for your own to come out and engage, which is one of the more effective ways of commencing in naval combat. Only your naval bombers can perform this mission though. Kamikaze strike can only be used by nations which possess the national spirit to do so, such as Japan. Fighters are the planes that are used to perform this mission, but they will be destroyed as you would expect. Finally, the air supply mission is used by your transport planes to send a little bit more supply to your divisions in an area. It will use some of your command power when you activate it, and make sure to deactivate it again before you try and use those planes for a paradrop. To assign your air wings a mission, select them, and then select the air mission you want them to perform, and then right-click on an air region. It's best practice to only have one mission assigned to your wings at a time. You may notice that on land, the air regions don't quite line up with the states on the map. You'll be able to see your frontline orders drawn in the air view, so make sure that you're being mindful of this as your army advances to make sure that you've still got air coverage over your divisions. When you've selected an air wing, the dotted yellow circle will show you the coverage for the selected air ring, or the range. The more of an air region is inside this circle, the more effective your planes will be. So you might need to move your wings to an airport closer to the front if they're out of range, or use a plane with more range, or even build a new airport. If that's all a bit complicated, you can assign your air wings to follow around an army. Simply select the air wings that you want to assign, and then left click on this little plane icon above your army general portrait at the bottom of your screen. Now your planes will move around to whichever airport is closest to the front line your divisions are assigned to, and they'll perform the mission that you have selected in the air zone that covers the most of that front. In the research tab, you can see the various plane types as well as their stats when you look at the technology. Not every plane can perform every single role. For example, only your fighters and heavy fighters can perform the air supremacy or interception missions, and they can't do any of the bombing roles. CAS and TACs can do the CAS mission, but CAS are much better at it. The benefit of your TAC bombers though is that they can fulfill a larger range of roles, and they have a larger range. So situationally, you might prefer to just make tactical bombers as opposed to making CAS for close air support, naval bombers for naval strike, and strat bombers for strategic bombing. The point I'm making is each plane has different tasks which they're more specialized for, and even if they can perform multiple missions, there's usually something that they're going to do best. While you're starting out, just stick with fighters and CAS while you learn and get comfortable with the air system, and then over time just experiment with the other plane types and begin to utilize them as you get more comfortable. Once you are more comfortable, you might be looking to use aircraft carriers and be wondering about how they work. In the research tab, you'll see the little icon in the corner of the plane text in the small airframes. This is the carrier variant of each plane, and it can only be researched once the land variant has been researched first. They work a bit differently where you don't have to assign them to a mission for them to work with your carriers. You just open the carrier airport menu through this icon here in the naval view. You make sure that your air wings are deployed, and you'll notice that they max out on 10 out of 10 on carriers. They'll automatically join a battle once the fleet engages, and no missions need to be assigned to them. Once you're at war and your planes are active, the easiest way to see if you're winning the air war is by the color of the air zones. If your air region is showing up red, that means you're losing air supremacy and you need to move some fighters here to combat the enemy planes. They'll also suffer a combat penalty while the air zone is red. Once your Air Force takes back the skies, the zone will turn green and your troops will fight more effectively. When they're yellow, that means that it's contested. You can also left click on an air zone to see the number of planes that are operating here as well as their type. And then any AA, which is engaging, your current air detection, which you can see here, and that determines how likely your planes are to engage the enemy, as well as your mission efficiency, which is mainly determined by your coverage over an air zone with your wings range. This will also deteriorate if you're lacking fuel, so if you are running out of fuel, be sure to trade for a little bit more, as anytime your air wings are exercising or performing missions, they'll be burning through fuel. Another important factor to consider with your Air Force is their experience level. Much like your armies, your pilots are more effective the more experienced they are, and you can exercise them up to level 3. Just like with your divisions, just hold shift and left click on the exercise button in the mission panel to train your air wings until they reach level 3. As they use fuel anytime they are exercising and they lose a small amount of equipment to air accidents, it's also a really good way to minimize your fuel use. Once they are level 3, they will gain a small trickle of air XP, so it's up to you to decide if it's worth losing some planes and using the fuel for that. Once you do have some of that XP to spend though, you can create a variant of a plane through the production menu by clicking on this button here and then selecting the create variant button on the production line. Here, this is where you can increase the different stats as you want for this type of aircraft. In the bottom, it will show you what the effective change is to their stats. The XP cost will be shown down the bottom, and be sure to update your production line once you click save. In terms of the different stats which are important to know about with your aircraft, there are a few that will really be the ones that you want to focus on. Firstly, you've got the range, which is going to show how large that yellow circle is around your airport, and that will increase the coverage that you will have over different air zones. The main one for your fighters especially is air attack, and that's how much damage they can do to enemy planes once they get into air combat. This goes up against air defense when a plane is actually hit in an air combat. So the higher the defense is, the less likely that plane is to be destroyed from the enemy air attack. Now, agility is one of the stats which affects how easy it is for you to target another plane, and also how easily your planes can avoid being hit. Previously in Hearts-of-Iron 4, agility was the most important stat, and the highest agility stat would always win. It's less so important now. The plane's speed also is a bit of a factor. Those are the 3 main stats when taken into consideration whether a plane is going to be successful in air combat or not. For planes that are going to be a bomber, for example, I'm using a tactical bomber here because they can perform all the different missions. Your ground attack stat is going to be how much damage your planes will do when they're performing the close air support mission. The strat bombing stat, it makes sense, it is how much damage they'll do while performing strat bombing. And then with naval missions, the naval attack is how much damage they will do, while the naval targeting is, I guess, how precise they are, what their accuracy is, and how likely they are to hit that ship. We've covered off a lot today, so now it's time for the bonus tip. If you're having trouble with resistance in your states that you've taken over, just go in and check your recruit and deploy menu. If this garrisons bar is shrinking or less than 100%, that means that your garrison troops are lacking equipment and their suppression is going to be less effective. You can fix this by changing the reinforcement priority to high by clicking on this button here. Now they'll get new equipment before even your frontline troops do, maximizing their suppression. There's way more to learn about this game, so why not stick around and watch this next video? Thanks for watching.